Your website homepage is one of the hardest pages on your site to write copy for, so I'm going to break it down into 11 key sections and make it really simple for you. Okay. Before we get started though, I do have 2 worksheets that can help. One of them is a prep work, and what this does is allow you to brain dump the knowledge that's in your head into a really simple little format that you can reference later as you're doing the other stuff. So grab this one. If you do use it, do not spend more than 30 minutes on it, and just get the stuff out of your head. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not copy. It's just a reference sheet. Okay, the other one that I have for you is the workbook that actually goes with this video. So the point of this workbook is to give you something to follow along with. So as you're watching me, I'm going to be teaching you each of these sections and showing you examples. So what I would recommend doing is watching me teach that section, pausing me for a second, and filling it in, and then keep repeating that through all 11 sections. So let's jump in, okay? All right, so the first thing you need to understand is the purpose of a homepage. Your homepage is your first chance to be helpful. So somebody came to you probably because they know you. It's not common to get cold traffic to a homepage. They've heard of you somewhere else. They maybe they did a search and they landed on one of your blog articles, or you ran an ad and sent them over to another page, or they Googled and landed on one of your service pages. It's not likely that somebody's going to just stumble upon your homepage. They're coming there because they've heard of you in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So they're a little bit warmer of an audience. So our goal with the homepage is like, hey, if this is you and you're having this kind of problem, let me get you to where you need to go. What is the next step? Do we need to send you to a service page? Do we need to send you over to the blog? Are you trying to apply for a job? Are you trying to... So there's like so much happening with homepages that it's really just a chance to get to know us and figure out where you need to go from here. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're thinking about your home pages. Like if you actually look at your Google Analytics data, your homepage shouldn't rank in your top 10 for first pages someone hits. If it does, you have a content strategy problem because you should have other content that's ranking better. Okay, let's dive in. So 11 sections: the header, the hero, the value stack, the transformation, an objection handler, about, price, packages or products, plan, a second objection handler, a DIY freebie, and a footer. I would recommend, unless you have experience or a really clear reason not to, that you do these sections in exactly this order and you make sure you do all of them. If you have a lot of experience or you have a really clear reason why it would make sense to change it, then you can change it. But most of the time, this is going to work for pretty much any business and pretty much any industry. Very few exceptions. So let's dive in, right? Section 1 is going to be your header. And this is the part at the very top of your page where your navigation lives. It has your logo, no more than 5 links, and a call to action. That call to action should not be contact us. Contact us is too generic. It's where people go when they want to sell you things or spam you or whatever. Like that's not our primary call to action. Like you see on these 4 examples, we've got book my clarity call, book my discovery call, schedule a non-sales call. So it should be like somebody's first step. Like if they would be potentially a good fit for your business, it's the first step they should take to move towards a direction of hiring you. That's what you want to do there. If you have like a membership is your primary thing that you sell, then start a free trial or something along those lines. It's not going to be contact us. Other than that, I recommend like home, about, services, and then like maybe a resources drop down where like your blog or like a resources page where you've got like downloads for people or your podcast or things like that can all go under there. If you have like multiple about type of things like meet the team, things like that, you can do drop downs under about, but most of the time it's really going to be like home, about, services, resources is kind of max. Okay. So again, pause me right here, go fill in this section on your workbook and come back and unpause me when you're done. Okay. Let's jump into section number 2, the hero. This is the second section on the page. Say that 3 times fast. And the goal of this is to pass what we call in StoryBrand the grunt test. What do you do? How will it help me? And how do I get it? Right? So as we look at these examples, what do they do? Well, executive coaching and leadership training. That's what he does. When you look at this one, she helps badass coaches course creators and agencies be more productive. That's what they do. Okay, how does it help me? If I'm a manufacturing company, it's going to help me scale faster and smarter. And you're going to do it by improving my people, process, and planning systems. Okay, that makes sense. You're getting to the root of my business problems and creating strategies. That makes sense. This one over here, she's implementing scalable automation systems and processes so that we can grow faster and smarter. That makes sense. So I understand what do they do. I understand how it will help me. How do I get it? Well, I have to book a consultation or book a clarity call. So your hero should pass that section. So go to your workbook, fill in those sections really quickly, and then come back. Okay. All right, let's jump into section number 3. This is the value stack. So one of the things that Ryan Dice likes to talk about is creating aha moments. So we have this moment of excitement and understanding. Ah is excitement, ha is understanding. So when we're doing a value stack, what we're trying to do is create some ah moments where they get excited and they feel like they're in the right place. So for example, this person makes websites. So make your website easy to read, hard to ignore, and a blast to share. Really simple. Promote your business, generate more leads, close more deals. Really simple. So they're really small little chunks of like, ooh, that would make me feel excited. So go fill in that section of your workbook and then come back. Okay, welcome back. Now we are going to move over into section number 4. Okay, what we want to do with this is create the transformation. Talk about like, here's where you are now, and with my help, you can get to here and things won't suck so much. So like a really short example, you love StoryBrand, but you've discovered that loving StoryBrand and implementing StoryBrand are wildly different. I can help. Really simple. You are here, you love this, but you're stuck here, and this is what's really frustrating you, and let me help you. Right? And so we've got a couple of examples of that. Like you don't have enough hours in the day, you're wearing 60-hour weeks like a badge of honor, as if working more will somehow get you closer to being on track and back in control. And that's not true. Like there's only so many hours a day, and no amount of grinding is going to give you that time back. So the only thing that you can do is implement processes that allow you to delegate effectively, and that's where I come in. All right, so we're talking about where you are now and how you feel about it, and then how hiring me is going to help so things don't suck so much. So pretty simple little thing to do. I will link to an additional resource from DigitalMarketer that actually, like if you're really struggling with this section, go do this exercise and read this. It's got the before and after grid that they use. So I will link to this article so you have that for additional information. Okay. And go fill in this section of your workbook and then come back. Okay. Welcome back. We are now on section number 5. This is your first objection handler section. We are going to have at least 2 of those on the page. Sometimes you can have more. So if you've done the press releases, so you have the as seen on like things, then sometimes that can be your third, like because it just is kind of discreet and can hide like right underneath the hero section. So it would come in between sections 2 and 3. But most of the time, this is, you're going to have 2. That would be the only kind of scenario where you might have 3. This is going to be things that are like sprinkles of trust, and they decrease the perceived risk for the visitor. So things like certifications, testimonials, awards, logos from like podcasts that you've appeared on, logos from clients, logos from events that you've spoken at, snippets from case studies. Typically, this first objection handler is going to be a little bit smaller, so logos or like 1 testimonial or 2 testimonials is a great place to put that. Certifications, awards, things can go here. In order of priority, if you have testimonials that speak to like the fear and the transformation that someone would have for why they would work with you, like those, I would put a testimonial before anything else. Certifications, awards, those kind of things can actually even just go in the footer. So they're good if you don't have something else, but if you have testimonials, I would, lean towards putting those first. Okay, so go to your workbook, think about like which one of these that you have, pick one, write it down, and then come back. Okay, let us jump into section number 6, the About section. So think about what's happening at this point. They have scrolled through 5 sections. And I want you to notice something that happened too. Like you see where we've got this like book my clarity call or book a discovery call, and how that is being reiterated down the page. So it was at the top of the page in the header. It happened again here in the hero. It happens again here in the transformation section. And so like we've put this button in front of them like 3 to 4 times depending on how long your page is, and they still haven't clicked it and they're scrolling. So now we want to think about how can we, like, what's going on? We need them to feel a little bit more confident. So it's time to talk about humans behind the business. So this is where you want to introduce something called the guide, the empathy and authority. So I've got another resource for this. If you want to dive a little bit deeper on this section, you can go to mystorybrand.com and create a brand script. There's little videos on each one of these that kind of explain it, but at a very high level, it is a person has a problem and meets a guide, that's you, who has a plan, calls them to action, and that plan is going to result in success or failure and will help them go from where they are now to where they want to be. So at a really high level, that's how it works. This section that we're talking about right now, this about section, is based on this. It's based on the guide section around like empathy and authority. So what we want to do is let someone know, hey, we really are skilled at doing this, but beyond that, we understand you. We understand where you're coming from. We have a passion to help people just like you. We have a track record of helping people just like you. This is literally what we do for a living, and we would like to do it for you. So it's empathy, it's authority. We understand, we can help. So go to your workbook, fill in this kind of section. Don't overthink it. Just put something in place for right now. You can always go fine tune it later, and then come back. Okay. Now we're moving on to section 7. This is where we actually introduce what you sell. And I want you to notice again that this happened all the way down in section 7. We had 6 other sections that were more important than this, and that's intentional. So what you actually do is not very important until someone already knows that they want to hire you and then they're looking for it. Like now they're looking for, okay, what does hiring you look like? What is it I need to actually go buy? Before that, they're a person with a problem and they're trying to figure out if you can solve it. So at a very high level, most of the things that you sell, if not all, should help a specific kind of problem or a specific kind of person solve a specific kind of problem. So like you're going to be working with a specific type of people. Like I work with B2B service-based businesses primarily, and we help them scale their business through like product fit alignment, through personal branding, through making sure that like they're doing the right things. But so like all of our services are designed around helping, you know, B2B service-based businesses create businesses that enable their lifestyle instead of taking over their life. So that's kind of like everything that you do is almost irrelevant. You kind of throw the services out the window and focus on that for most of the page. But now when we get down here to this section, it's like, okay, well, here's what the actual services look like. Sort of. So if you're e-commerce, this might be your best selling products or categories of products. If you're in a service-based business, then this is where you're going to choose like either your top selling services, your best bundles or packages of services, or an entry point offer. So like the first thing that someone should buy before they start working with you. Like a really common one with marketing agencies is some form of strategy workshop session kind of thing where they create a blueprint for what we're going to do, because they need to dig, you know, we need to dig a little bit deeper into your business before we know exactly how we can help you most of the time. So you don't want to list everything that you do. I would say kind of maximum 6 here. You can always put a little link for like view all of our services and send them off to another page if you want to, but we're really kind of looking at like top 1 to 6 max things that you're going to put right here and how you help them. And you can either do like what we did on this example right here on the right, you can just do like 1 or 2 words, or you can come over here and actually have like a little sentence with it. And again, you're going to repeat that button again. So go over to your workbook, fill in what you've got over here, and then come back. Okay, now let's move on to section number 8. So this is where we're going to demystify what's behind that next step. So, and we kind of talk about this a little bit over here in StoryBrand Tool. We'll talk about it in this Who Gives Them a Plan. Typically, this is going to be about 3 to 4 steps. I recommend sticking to 3. 3 is really the best. It's going to fit the best. Like even Donald Miller tells you 3 is the best. There's really not very many situations where you need more than 3. And what we're going to do is do this at a very high level. So the very first step that they're going to take is the one you've been telling them to take down the entire page. So if you've been saying book a call or schedule a, you know, strategy session or whatever, that's what the first one is. Do that thing. The second one is going to be whatever happens in between them and getting a result. So maybe it's that you're making a plan. Maybe it's that you're doing a blueprint. Maybe it's that you're like, whatever it is, you do a plan. And then the third thing is what happens after that plan has been executed. So like, what's the result that they're going to achieve down the line whenever the plan is done and the result has been achieved. That's what we're trying to do with this 1, 2, 3. Again, you want to keep it very brief, keep it very simple, and then max like 1, 2 sentences underneath each one, probably 1 sentence most of the time, and reiterate that call to action that we've been using on the whole page. All right, so pause me, go do your workbook, and come back. Okay, now we are moving on to section number 9. This is our secondary objection handler. So again, it's the same kind of concept. We're still sprinkling that trust and decreasing risk. When they've made it all the way down to section 9 on the page, though, now we can be a little bit more robust. So all of this is one case study. Just kind of had to move it around a little on the page so you can see it, but it's like section 1, 2, and 3 of a case study. Notice like you don't even have to link off to like a big formal case study thing. Like this can be enough. This is an example, and it's done really well. It's done from the standpoint of, instead of being like, hey, look how awesome we are, like, hey, look, this was one of my favorites that we did. This is what, they had going on. Here's what they were struggling with. And then once we did the thing for them, they got these things. And with these bullets, this is a really smart way to do this, where you're like bolding just the first little phrase. Better conversion, less time on the phone, less student melt, more time. That way they can skim really quickly. We have a visual example, and then turn that into a call to action. So let's put a screeching halt to those lost sales. It's time to turn your website into a selling machine. What's that you hear? Oh, it's just Donald Miller's slow clap as he cheers you on from afar. Like, really cool, really like great example. So by the time you get down to section number 9, this is the kind of thing you want to be able to do. You can get with like a little bit longer of a thing. Another thing you can do is like a testimonial wall. So just like a massive wall of like screenshots from social media, screenshots from like Google reviews, video like testimonials that you've collected from people, anything like that that you can get your hands on, you can put that kind of stuff there. So go write down what you want to use for your objection handler for the second one, and then come back. Okay, so moving on, we are now in section number 10. This is what I like to call the DIY freebie. This is something you will also see called as a lead magnet or a lead generator. And it kind of comes between a stranger and your entry point offer. So somebody's coming to your site, they kind of sort of know you maybe because they're on the home page, but they've made it all the way down. We're like almost at the end of the home page. They still haven't opted in to the thing that we've been telling them to do the whole time, the book a consultation, book a call. They've made it this far, still not done it. So we're going to try and be like, okay, so maybe you're not ready to book a call. That's great. Let me give you something to help you in the meantime. And the reason I call this a DIY freebie is because a lot of people make lead magnets and lead generators that don't have a lot of value. They don't have a high perceived value, and they don't have a high actual value. They're like 5 things you should know about, marketing or something along those lines. It's basically content that they can find elsewhere. There's very little reason for them to give, contact information to get it. So what we want to do instead is be like, hey, you came to my site because you're this kind of person who has this kind of problem. You've hung around on the homepage long enough because you think I could solve it, but you're not ready to contact me yet. That's okay. I still know that you're this kind of person with this kind of problem because you're still here. So how can we give you a DIY thing that can help you go take some level of action in the right direction? Like I'm helping people with personal branding. A lot of times that's one of the biggest things that we help people with. So what I might do would be to create a checklist of items that you should have to create a strong personal brand. So like, here's your audit that you can use so that we can actually check this off. I know another thing people like to do a lot is like 12 questions you should ask before you hire a fill in the blank marketer. So 5 questions you should ask before you hire a marketer, 12 questions you should ask before you hire a marketer, something along those lines. One way to pivot something like that into a DIY is to be like, okay, here is a questionnaire that you can use when you're interviewing potential marketing agencies. And it's got spots on it for like 3 different ones. So here's some questions you should ask, and here's a spot for you to write in their answers. And then I've already given you my answers. So it's all like Sparkative branded, and it's like, here's how I would answer all of these questions for us as an agency. Now go use this and stack us up against somebody else. So then you've turned that into a DIY thing instead of just a list of questions. So sometimes you can just pivot. You may also already have a lot of these items. Like you may already have a checklist that you use when you're bringing on new clients, and it's how you kind of wrap your brain around where they're at to start with. Turn that into an audit that they can use or a checklist that they can use and create these offers. So it's really important that it's like very tightly aligned with you're this type of person who has this type of problem, and do this to get you by for now, and then when you're ready, now take me up on the entry point offer, like whatever you've got going on for them that they could do next. Maybe it's something that involves time or money. So a webinar, a challenge, a like $27 course, something along those lines that they can go do. So go think about that one, think about what you've got, write that in on your workbook, and then come back. Okay, so last section here, we have our footer, section 11. So this is where everything else goes. So things like your career pages, your contact page, your contact info, the things that people will hunt for and will look for. Like if I'm looking to put in a job application with you, I will hunt your website for a career page. So it doesn't deserve top of the site header placement. I'll go looking for it. So you can put it lower on the page. Footer is just the dumping ground for everything else. So not a whole lot to think through there. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So go fill that in on your workbook and then come back. Okay, that is it. You are done. These basic building blocks that you've learned can be used on more than just home pages too. You can use them on landing pages, service pages, etc. You just want to think about like the intent of the page, right? So if I was like doing it on website copy, service page, I would run this exact same kind of formula, but think about it in terms of just like building a website for somebody and the pain points and problems and goals that they have for that. So just think about the intent of the page, but you can use this same framework on multiple different types of pages with some small tweaks. So this should give you a really strong foundation. If you would like me to look at your homepage and give you some feedback, you can head over to sparkative.com/site-review, and I will drop that link in the notes, and drop me a link to your site, and I'll shoot you back a Loom video with some feedback. So until next time, go out there. I'm rooting for you. Good luck.